Hi, everyone. My name is Mafalda. I'm a PhD student, and today I will present this paper related to the type and the subordinate elements. As we know, the evolution of prison architecture in its morphology, spatial organization, architectural elements, and materiality is wrapped in deep cultural values strongly linked to political and social tactics as a means to assert power and control. And architecture as also a form itself as a response to the realization of some penal functions, some of them assumed throughout its evolution, such as punishment, segregation, social example, society protection, rehabilitation, and resocialization. Here, there is a mix of image that I consider important to the prison architecture evolution. And although the who, the why, and to whom may have suffered some discomfort. Sorry, can you hear me? No.
Yeah, we can hear you really clearly.
Sorry. As I'm saying, maybe those things may have suffered some discrepancies during the evolution time, sometimes making hard to recognize the originality of the designs. A set of innovations and peculiarities contributing to the model of space and its habitability are clearly recognized, and in those they characterize the typology even today. So in this sense, we highlight the importance of coping as a blend action, supposedly with the goal of perpetuating the best of each prison type. We also know the etymology of type that draws the concept to act like a replicable morphological model. But we also have the opinion that in this perpetuating of the best, sometimes, and also in the present type, that can be disconnected from the current ideology. And for example, okay, I didn't pass this slide, but okay, these two images are an example of two different present time periods and different ideologies. So in this presentation, I don't want to mention exclusively the morphological copy, which is actually what normally stands out, but also the copy of several elements that are now part of an image that have become a stereotype of the prison. And this is important because according to the French philosopher Merleau-Ponty, our perception of things is grounded in a previous perception of the same kind of thing, and thus perpetuating the prison stereotype fundamentally for trauma. When we have something similar, even if we don't have that kind of trauma, it will rise as a memory. If we want to promote an architecture towards normality in the sense of rehabilitation and resocialization, and at the same time we have a cell or a kind of type of housing block, which when they are designed, the idea was to inflict the hate of the condemnation, the control and segregation, for example, that can be hard for promote the new ideals. So, and starting our presentation, we identified the main base of the contemporary prison in the radial design type. The originality is generally attributed to the Maison de Force here, an 18th century prison. But the great consistencies and international outlook came with Cherry Hill, a project by John Avilan. And after in Europe, as we most know with Pentonville by Joshua Jebb. And also some peculiarities of these examples may be seen as replica of other projects, but we use just two of those as an example for this presentation. This was a period with which imprisonment was upheld as the sole punitive sentence and adopted in several countries. Also following the trend of promoting better conditions for the living experience in prison, at least in theory. And so at Cherry Hill, and focus of the construction and space designed for cell housing, we can describe this example by the simple disposition of the parallelepipedic bodies, the cell inks, and shorted according to a set of radial shafts originating from the central point. And we emphasize that one of the beneficial features for the internal control was the voids that the voids that were in the central area corridor. And this circumstance allow with the lighting that come down from the glazed roof and the large windows at the end of each block enable the visibility of the continuum. The inner part was flanked by a rhythmic of the access of the cell doors and the multiplicity of the cell spaces. That at that time they fulfill several functions such as seclusion, hygiene, meal taken, and work. The shape was normally the rectangular one, and the door disposed at the center provide a visual range for the space. The windows in Cherry Hill took many particularities from small slits or openings in the ceiling. And this kind of example as currently knows as other cell prisons as we know. So this is the example on Pentonville, and this is also an example in the Ghent. Also, doors and halls presented some peculiarities that still constitute today common and recognizable as prison features, such as the position they assume directly facing the surveillance and the circulation corridor, and also the door position related to the cell, as in the center or in the lateral, and related to that, also the openings are a peculiarity, like small peepholes or a bigger opening like the feeding holes. But, and as we know, both of these kind of solution, they don't let that exist privacy in the prison and the cell space. So we argue that these kind of subordinate elements, that's okay, they are just elements, but in the cell, in the prison, they start to be the prison essence. Up this point, I highlight the replica elements in some different prisons, institutions, but I also to refer the replica also of these elements also inside the prison itself. The repetition is also crucial to maintenance the warden and the discipline within the prison experience. And this stand is also works for functions like the control, the mechanization, the absence of individual expression, and also the mortification of the self, as Erving Goffman refer as a goal of this kind of institution. Gluing together this whole complex, there is the outer limits, the hall with the watchtowers, and the hall also acquires a significant in the radial model shift, special because technical issues linked to sanitary needs to prevent the spreading of the disease, and the hall also lets the inner space become open. And also for the all characterization, as we know, there is all peculiarities that we recognize in all prisons that use the hall as a limit. Besides is visual image linked to the punishment, these elements also gain expression in the characterization of the typology today. And also here, the replica also become expressive in this context, and for mainly security reasons. Sometimes the wall is also related with several layers, especially the facilities that need higher protection. By taking by taking their unique places and stressing their own rules, these kind of elements define and enforce an enforcement intention. They still perpetuate.
Sorry to interject. There was just a 5-second lag. Would you mind just repeating anything you might have said in that 5 seconds?
So sorry.
No worries. Thank you.
I'm just saying that by taking these elements define an enforcement intention, and we argue that the presence of such a set or even a part of them, even in spaces unrelated to the radial design type, they perpetuate the same significance. And we can see that, for example, in the following radial typologies, such as the telegraph pole, here with the Friends example, and also the Urscher with the type with the Brandenburg. The connection is good. Sorry.
Yeah, it's fine now. Thank you.
Okay. And this kind of the matrix became very, very common, but we consider that the architectural archetype as a mental conception of is essence and will become imprinted in the form, is why is also so presented. And also because the architecture of prison after radial type has mostly developed towards the organization and of the collective space, not the housing blocks. And that's why we now after 200 years of prison evolution, we still face with this kind of elements in the housing blocks. But this is kind of a counterproductive in our opinion, if we want to have an environment for the rehabilitation, continuous facing with the same solution. If we have a different thing. So, and to sum up, the replica and its ever presence in the typology are what we believe to contribute and eternalize the first prison experience, because memory lies in the embodiment and the pattern, and people subject to the same embodiment will understood that trauma memory. So here I have, sorry, I forgot to pass, but here I have different image related to this kind of copy of elements, even in the different period times and different types of prison designs. But I would like to wrap with this question, which would happen if we abandon a certain formal manifestations and some of those subordinated elements that I refer. Would we have a different or a new typology or not? I would like to end with this question. Yeah, all the present, the image that I present, I have the link here, and yeah, thank you for the attention. And sorry, I'm a little nervous, and also my English is not. I hope you understood the issue. Thank you. Hello.
Thanks so much, Mafalda. We might do questions after each presentation, and then
Okay.
we have some time at the end for a broader discussion. Does anyone have questions either online or in the room for Mafalda? I have one. I don't want to jump in case anyone else has a question in mind. Okay, I'm jumping in. Thank you so much, Mafalda. I really loved the visual aspects of your presentation. I felt like they were so very illustrative of the things you were discussing, especially the photo, the bird's eye view photo of the Eastern State Penitentiary, where we could really clearly see the layout of the prison in contrast. Yeah, this is the one, in contrast to the city. And what really stood out to me is that, you know, this radial quality to the prison building, it is so stark in contrast to the grid-like quality of the city that surrounds it. And I was thinking about your points about how memory lies in our embodiment and the patterns of place. What are your thoughts on, you know, using a contrasting layout like a radial layout in the ways that it might destabilize or disorient people who are experiencing incarceration? Is that something that you have a reflection on?
Sorry, can you just repeat the question, please?
Yeah, of course. So I was saying that, you know, for prisoners who are living their life in this radial building, you know, it's set out in this way, in contrast to the grid of the city that we see surrounding the prison. What are your thoughts on how setting out buildings in a structure that's different from the grid, from everyday life? Do you think that is destabilizing or disorienting to people who are experiencing incarceration?
The main thing in this example, I think the people that is inside of the prison don't have notion about, they can't see the outsides from the inside of the prison. So for the people that is inside, I don't know. The question if the design of if the prison, the life inside the prison is destabilizing because of the outside being surrounded. That is the question, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, I didn't study that, but as a personal opinion, I don't think so. I think it's also good being, be part of the city. In the radial design, they are now part of the city because when they were built, there was no city around, and now there is a city. But normally, in these kind of facilities, they also are big halls. So the confront between prison life and prison in the life outside prison is all not the real life and the real day. So prisons are part of. I'm not sure if you are speaking or not. I'm not sure.
Oh no, we're just listening. Oh, no worries.
Because I'm hearing a lot of cuts. Sorry, this is a kind of trouble, the internet.
Sorry about that. That's definitely.
I don't know if I answered the question.
No, absolutely. That was really interesting. Yeah, that like quality of timeliness and the city emerging around the prison is definitely an interesting one to reflect on. Yeah, any other questions for Mafalda? Yeah, there's one question in the room. I'll just run the mic over.
Hi, thank you for your presentation. I was just wondering, did you look at Michel Foucault's theory of panopticism and the way that prisons are designed around that theory?
Yes.
And did you see that pattern a lot in the architecture that you were looking at?
Sorry?
Did you see that pattern of panopticism in the architecture you were looking at?
Yes, I know, and also I can recognize that the model comes from is related or connected with the panoptical idea also. But what I argue at and I understand the connection, but what I argue, if now that we are facing with the defense of the normalization in prison life, the rehabilitation process, and we are developing and study areas that look like normal environments, like as we know from outside of the prison. Why we are keeping, my question is, why we are keeping the same from to the housing blocks? If you are presented normal or common environments for all the rest of functions, why you are still having the same from the space for inhabits? I'm just, you know, this kind of presentation is just to show our replica in this kind of situation are still perpetuating an idea, a first of one, that perhaps is not more related with the present ideology, or at least is an antagonic idea. But yes, I read Foucault.
Great, thank you. That was a fascinating presentation.
Oh, thank you so much.
Okay, any last questions for Mafalda before we maybe move on to Marco's presentation? Okay, Marco, I think that's your cue. Feel free to share your slides if you have any. Let me know if you need a hand with Zoom.
Hello to everybody. Sure, I'm going to share it. Can you hear me properly first?
Yeah, we can hear you really clearly.
Wonderful. I can hear you too. And can you see the slides? Can you see the slides? Sorry.
Not quite yet.
Not yet. Sorry.
No worries.
Just a moment. Okay, now it should work.
Yes, we can see. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you to you. Thank you to everybody and the organizers of this session. Today we'll speak about the spread of video conferencing, testimonies of a technology that has become normality. Today we'll speak about a new carceral space. It's a, let's say, a different carceral architecture that plays with the virtual. All over the world, new practice and technology have flourished in prison during the COVID pandemic. And among them, video conferencing was one of the technology that were extended to prevent physical contact and contagions. I'm Marco Nocente, and I'm working in the University of Milano Bicocca. I'm a postdoc. And for this presentation, I split the presentation in 3 parts. The first is framing video conferencing and its use. The second part is about the methodology, a counter-narrative approach with an archive of letters. And the third part is a genealogy of video conference and the description of the lived experience of the prisoner engaged in struggle with a specific positionality, let's say. Okay, so what I want to say firstly is that video conference shows a convergence of logics and practice between care and control. Indeed, care strategies and panoptic strategies such as isolation and mobility control are crystallized within the video conferencing room. Video conference is also an example of a technology born as a security tool in emergential times, and then it was extended to the rest of the population. What is interesting in its spread is that the rest of the prison population often do not perceive it as a tool of oppression, differently from who was living it in the beginning. What has happened is that even when the emergency reduces its impact, these technologies get extended and get normal. So it's easy to understand how, thinking about video conferencing, the technologies devised for the harsher regimes, such as what we call in Italy 41 bis, which is a kind of supermax in the rest of the world. It can be seen as a laboratory where practice, such as video conference, are tested, then fine-tuned before being rolled out. Using the testimonies of the prisoners who wrote in the letters from maximum security prison, I will highlight the punitive logic that characterized video conferencing technology within the governmental logic in its beginning. It's a care tool with a punitive story. Video conference is a legitimizing technology within the process of civilization of the logic of punishment. So it's in another way, it's this technology bites the soul rather than the flesh, as by Foucault or de Mably. The use of the video can create a distance between the court and the accused. The technology produces a simulacra, namely the image of a prisoner, which eliminates the corporality of the prisoner, who is literally excluded from the court. The emerging of this new carceral space, the video conference room, shows a prisoner already in prison with a non-neutral prisoner status in front of the court. To make this research, this research comes from a bigger project. It's an analysis of letter of 1,097 letters from March 2006 to February 2021. And I use around 10 letters, more or less, because these are included also some writings from lawyers and activists. And I try to create this fragment of narratives to be beyond the massive published works and data knowledge and production that often reflect the rhetoric of the prison administration. I now speak about the genealogy of video conferencing and then speak about the embodied experience of it. The spread of video conference must be understood within a managerial approach of prison management. The development of the penal system has made its governmental and bureaucratic procedure more uniform, efficient, and cost-effective in the last years. Video conferencing crystallized the rationality of prison power, developing both a material and a virtual geographic solution. In another sense, video conference shows a governmental feature. It is no longer the normalization of the emergency here, but providing technology for future emergency. So for every next emergency, the same technology can be used in each situation. Video conferencing in Italy was introduced in 1992 following the Capaci bombing. It was a terrorist mafia attack in which the magistrate Giovanni Falcone was killed, and then after a few months another magistrate was killed again. It was in the beginning it was a solution for the fighting against mafia phenomenon. Video conferencing was aimed at ensuring the security of people admitted to the protection programs, so to people who was cooperating with the investigations. After 6 years, in 1990, so it was a care policy, let's say. After 6 years, in 1998, this technology was applied to prisoner under Article 41 bis, which is again the supermax. And then the technology was extended further for every prisoner still in high security, for every prisoner who was creating serious threats to the security of the public or the public order, and for complex hearings. Video conferencing, it was seen as a way to avoiding meetings between defendants or avoid escapes during the transportation. Here, the security issue was emerging more. But in 2012, before the spread of the pandemic, and also, moreover, before the spreading of the pandemic, video conferencing had extended to every prisoner with a specific status detentionis. So if the prisoner was in prison, it was normal that it was possible that the judge could ask for the video conferencing. Those were the years when the measure was extending to the rebellious prisoner held in a prison in the regimes other than maximum security. This is what happened more. But in 2020, among the measures taken to contain the COVID-19, face-to-face meeting was replaced with other virtual methods, and video conferencing became an automatism. Not least, it became an object of economic interest, because every prison now has video conference equipments, and thus fulfill the prison industrial complex. So another economic issue which changed from care and then security and then economy. But what is interesting about video conference is the force and the contribution of the prisoners and those who experience these spaces. And especially their capacity to resignify the carceral space. Their contribution made it possible for readers to see beyond the institutional gaze in opposition to the bureaucratization process described above. So it's interesting to see how video conference is lived. Video conference enable a defendant to take part in a trial without being physically present. These prisoners at this point are not convicted of an offense, because it's something, a specificity of the Italian situation, but the prisoner take part in the court proceeding through a video screen from inside the prison where they are being held. The defense lawyer can choose whether to take part with the client in the prison or in the courtroom. You can see it in the picture. There is the prisoner inside with the lawyer with him, but he can also be in the court. It's an alternative. And I do a small I just want to say also about the condition of the anarchist prisoner Alfredo Cospito, which is in hunger strike since 20 of October and protesting against life imprisonment and 41 bis. Just a small promotion, sorry. And anyway, what I want to underline about the experience of video conferencing is that a new carceral space emerges. You can see the inside of the prison, finally, through the video conferencing room. But the carceral space of video conference takes place in a suitably equipped room, furnished with desk and chairs and with a guard inside. In the court, several video cameras film the judge, the injuries parties, and the defendants with their lawyers, and first screen then transmit the footage. The image of the prisoner occupy a very small portion of the screens and remain mute for a long time. In a letter, a prisoner wrote, "On the TV, there's me in a small frame, and then you can see the courtroom, 10 seconds on the judge, and 10 seconds on my friends, lawyers, and the prosecutor. The prisoner in the room remotely follows at distance the movement of the camera from the screen, which frames just the lawyer or the judge when they speak. And the prisoner can never have a bigger picture of the trial. He can only see a progressive sequence of the process stage." So the possibility of seeing glimpses of prison inside a monitor, which is a highly visual experience during a trial, brings with it an increasingly inability on the part of the prisoner to talk about prison or anything else that is not exactly related to the ongoing process. If you say something that is not related to the process, can mute you with a click, with a button. Video conferencing imposes a system that does not allow interaction and codifies the prisoner's space-time in the name of efficiency. In a contribution of a prisoner, I had thought about what to do, what I want to say. I greet the court with the raised fist, because I like to greet like that. Then I pay attention in the courtroom. The TV is on the judge's side, and that's it. What an idiot I feel. I only greeted the judge. So in video conference, there are even frictions. Sometimes the link, like here, is interrupted due to a disconnected video screen, due to the delay in the audio or the audio falls. In another testimony, friction occurred, breaching the privacy and the secrecy of the dialogue between the lawyer in the court and the defendant in the prison, because they was calling each other with the phone and everybody could hear them. The transition imposed by the video conferencing from face-to-face to virtual process implies for the prisoner a material immobility and a dematerialized mobility. It is a process that encourages putting distance between the body of the accused and the public. It's a sophistication of the punishment of the body, a bureaucratization of punishment. A prisoner wrote, "What kind of trial is it if the judge don't even dare you to look in the eye when they give you the sentence?" Or another, "New technologies freeze the courtroom from the uncomfortable and jarring presence. A click on the audio can mute you. There is no emotional exchange with the public, who do not even appear on the screen. No complicit glances, no greetings to family and friends. Once in prison, even on pre-trial, one never leaves the prison, neither for the trial." And again, it continues, "Especially in the case for dangerous prisoners, the jury members are led to consider you so dangerous that you cannot be brought to the court. Somehow, your guilt is already implicitly designated in the manner of your presence." So is and it finish. It's a cybernetic metaphor for a blindfolded justice that is equipped with a mechanical eye prosthesis, but is still blind. To conclude, it can be argued that through bureaucratization practice from one area to another become more easily and transferable. As you can see, I show video conferencing that in its genealogy was used for protection and care of prison, to video conference for security and the maintenance of orders and the dangerous prisoners, to the video conference for efficiency and cost effectiveness since 2012. And with COVID pandemic, video conference for care and isolation. This presentation aims to highlight a long process of bureaucratization of punishment, which has put distance between punitive practice and public awareness, making video conferencing acceptable and normal. As described by Gilmore, prison depersonalized social control so that it could be bureaucratically managed across time and space. Bureaucratization of the legal penal system is the best, or rather the most efficient way of continuing to punishing and to maintain the punishment logic. In this presentation, I have described how video conferencing as a technology of the carceral power embedded within the process of civilization of punishment. This renewal has been possible through the creation of a simulacrum to punish. There is no more prisoner flesh to bite. Man and woman become an interactive and controlled image. The total control of both the circulation of the body and its virtualization, the control of the prisoner's voice that can be silenced and with a touch of a button, shows how the procedure of power manifests themselves. A progressive disappearance of the accused seems to be taking place. This simulacrum underpins an exclusionary function of prison. Material and virtual punishment in a civilized guise become a technocratic and administrative affair, and the defense of the prisoner became weaker and weaker. Video conferencing is an exclusive spectacle that tends to progressively remove the public, leaving only prison expert, the court, and the punished simulacrum of the prisoner, and nobody else. All of this was possible, all of this presentation was possible through the narrative of the prisoner, the direct experience, which show another side of the governmental reason, and that I try to put together to create these counter narratives. Thank you to everybody, and I finish my presentation.
So much, Marco. That was really fascinating. So many things coming to mind about the ways that, you know, we, as you say, are normalizing some of those products of like state of emergencies. Like, I was just, something that came to mind for me was how sensitized we all are now to being online as a sort of result of COVID and embracing technologies like Zoom. But as you point out, that this just further serves to invisibilize people who are perhaps, undergoing trial or undergoing sentencing, and that has some very serious implications. Like your point about the activist, the anarchist, incarcerated person who raised their fist in opposition, and then only the judge could see that act. That's really silencing. Anyway, but I don't want to take up too much of the conversation. Yeah, questions for Marco. Yeah, I'll just pass the mic over.
Thank you, Marco. It's a great project. I had a couple of comments or questions. And the first thing that I was thinking was that if the accused is being presented to the court on video link, does that mean if their friends and family are in the court that they can't see their friends and family? And the second comment was, I understand your argument about the bureaucratization of court through teleconference, but is there scope for teleconferencing to be used to scrutinize courts and the way that judges act? Do you see any hope there that the fact that the court proceedings are through teleconferencing, that maybe human rights lawyers or activists may be able to then, like if they couldn't attend the court in person, they may be able to sit in through video conferencing? I don't know if that's too much of an optimistic or hopeful question, but do you see that as also opening up the possibility for further critique or scrutiny for the court as well? Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the questions for now. I'll start to answer. I'm not really sure about the second question, because about the bureaucratization, because I really didn't understood really well about the scrutiny, the possibility of scrutiny, the work of the judge. Could you repeat the question, please?
I guess that was the question. Like, is there if the judge can the judge or the court proceedings, can they be scrutinized through teleconferencing? So can human rights lawyers sit in on the conferencing when otherwise they might not have been able to attend the court in person? Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you. Just I want to be sure that I understood and not answer you to another question. Actually, the questions are a bit related, because it's about the publicity of the event. Maybe the answer of both the question. What is interesting about video conferencing is that nowhere is written that the public is not allowed to be there. Everybody can enter in the court, but the introducing of video conference made more and more an administrative affair, the issue of the sentencing. So a lot of things changes. For instance, and I try to answer to all the question now. The prisoner can answer just about and defend himself just about the proceeding, and never put in question the whole issue of the proceeding, for instance. Or the lawyer, if he or she decide to go to the prison and not to the court, is absent, is not in the court. The relatives, friends, and I would say even activists, if someone want to protest, they can be just seen in some frame, as I said before, 10 seconds, just to show who is there. But generally they have no chance to speak. One of the protests that sometimes they made during the video conferencing is to try to shout or say something with loud voice when the lawyer is inside the court and there's the open mic. So when the microphone is open, people from behind the law, because in the court there is the lawyer and behind there is the public. People from the public can try to shout and try to say something, and maybe the prisoner in the video conference can hear this, but still it's a disturbing thing. So there is not a real relation. And this is to say that and with video conference generally, really the conference are really poor, the court is really poor attended. Generally people just don't come to video conference process because there is really an administrative affair. About the actually the scrutinization, it's something that generally is not really, the lawyers generally don't do much, but still video conference is really on discussion, because it's it deals really a lot about the becoming weaker of the defense of the prisoner, and it's something that even on a constitutional plan, it's something that is always in discussion in the Italian between lawyers in Italy, let's say. But also because generally this video conference, as I said before, are dealing with the pre-trial prisoners. So there are people who are already in prison, but they are still waiting for to be convicted, to be convicted. So this is really crucial, the moment of the court and the trial, and having less possibility to defense is really a problem. But what is interesting, I had also the chance to see some video conference, and every time you discover something, and you see is really something that you see, that it shows how really prison space, even if it shows an inside, because with when you see a carceral space, the inside of the prison, you see something about the prison, but then there is really nothing that you can say, and nothing that you can do. It's really just to be there and see. It's really similar. Is really like to see a movie, and some with the justice that work alone without you. I try to answer.
Thank you. That was great.
Thanks so much, Marco. That was a really interesting response. We have a little bit more time if there's any other questions from people attending online. Feel free either to, unmute yourself and jump in, or you can use the chat function, whatever is easiest. If people have any questions.
Grazie.
I don't know if you can hear this, but on our end, it sounds like there is a group of people very loudly singing outside the building we're in. So if that's coming through, hope you feel serenaded. Okay, well, if there are no other questions, please join me in thanking Mafalda and Marco for a really, really interesting panel. I think there are so many interesting parallels to draw between your presentations about, visibility and invisibility, and the ways that incarcerated people become invisibilized in the architectures and systems of technology and control that they are interred in. And yeah, I for one will definitely be reflecting on some of your insights over the next coming days. So yeah, thank you so much. It's been a really fabulous panel. Thank you.
Thank you to you.
Okay, take care, and hope to see you soon. Bye, folks.
Bye-bye.